to stand in solidarity against child sexual abuse. The organisers say that the crisis of sexual abuse against children is fueled by silence and shame that keeps children victims whilst allowing child abusers to act with impunity. Just to put this in context, a reminder of the staggering statistics. Every 10 minutes, a child is sexually abused in South Africa. 1 in 10 children will be abused. 90% know their abuser. To discuss, we're now joined by Miranda Johnson-Friedman from Women and Men Against Child Abuse, and television personality Andile Galeswe. Excuse me, forgive me, Galeswe, who obviously came forward and spoke about your own rape ordeal. So thank you for that. Let's just start with you, Miranda. How is this inspired by the hashtag #MeToo? What's the same? What's different?
Okay, so we saw how Me Too grew as a movement, how it was a simple message that said that we are actually not going to accept what's happening to us. We know who the people are who are doing this. In fact, the people who know the people that are doing them are also keeping quiet. So there's a huge amount of enablers there that allow this to carry on. But for us, one of the things that was really important is that in South Africa, our seriously staggering levels of child sexual abuse are coming in waves to a country that really has a broken system. Our systems don't work. The people who are working in this work, and I include myself and many other organizations, are exhausted under the sheer velocity of what we are dealing with on a daily basis. We cannot cope with what's happening at our clinics, let alone all the other clinics around the world, around the country. So really for us, this was somewhere to say, okay, people in South Africa are getting tired. They're getting tired every day. They're hearing of a child sexual abuse. They're hearing about a rape. And how do we start addressing that in a way that it resonates with every single South African? We first of all have to change the language, because we're telling children to say no. We don't tell children to say no to anything except the most difficult thing to say no to, and that's to an adult who is sexually abusing them. So first we have to change our language. We have to try and shift the blame, the shame that you've just mentioned, the humiliation. So children, when they grow up, and many children who can't speak out have an opportunity, because these are dialogues we're going to start in schools, that they will start having these difficult, courageous conversations that we will be facilitating, starting with grade 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, and 11s, and that is trying to take the ownership that they think belongs to them and putting it on the perpetrator. It was in no way their fault. It will never be their fault. They were not in the wrong place. They did not accept something another child would have not accepted. And they are not alone. And it's not only happened to them. So this is the courageous conversation that, for me, is something that every single citizen can identify with if one just thinks of the concept. And I think after this, we would really like to talk about an I know, and how many people will later say, but I knew something, like they were saying about Bob Hewitt. Oh, we sort of knew. We knew that he was always in the stand with young girls. We always knew this, but nobody spoke about it. And it's actually, for us, debunking the power that perpetrators have, because once we open that discussion, then we're allowing children to be a part of this.
So I thought it was different to Me Too, because that was about women who could come out and speak about it, and you think children can't, but what you're talking about is similar things, the shame, firstly, the guilt, and the protection for the perpetrators. What resonated with you? You came out with your story. I presume you're happy to continue to tell it, to help other victims, but will you just explain what resonated with you here?
Well, I wish I didn't have to tell my story over and over. I mean, I spoke out about it first time.
Is that exhausting?
She's tired, I'm tired. It's when is it ending? I first spoke out about it in 2001, 2002, which is when I started my foundation. And I didn't think that 20 years later, I'd still be here speaking about the same thing. In fact, now, having it be worse than it was back then. So for me, what resonates with the Mini Me Too is the fact that I was a child when this happened.
How old were you?
11, 12, around there. I mean, all those, some of the details are so fuzzy because what I did and what a lot of children do is you want to just forget about it. Because if you tell mommy, she's not going to believe you, especially if it's someone in the house or at church or, all these stories. So you then bear the burden of keeping this to yourself. And so, I spoke out back then because I'd heard a girl speak about it and try to kill herself. And that was the single thing that brought me out of my corner to say, okay, I also need to, put my voice to this chorus of voices that are saying it's enough. So, and for me, the point is the stat you just raised, every 10 minutes. So for as long as we've been here, how many kids have been raped around the country? And the time it's over now. We cannot be hiding anymore. We see videos of kids beating up teachers at school, taking drugs, all kinds of things. We're saying these kids are demonic. We're saying all kinds of things, but we're not going down to check what actually is really going on. What are they bottling up that they're not speaking about? Because I spoke about it and I did get support, I guess because, the fame, but behind closed doors, I also, didn't get that support. I opened a case against my father in November because it surfaced that he'd been raping other girls. I just thought it was that one-time incident. And only to find early this year that the NPA says, no, they're not prosecuting because there's no prospects for winning the case. So where are my rights? Where must a child go? What must she do? What must he do?
This is so important because that whole thing of adults protecting other adults.
Yes.
So did you feel that you're not believed when you go and tell people my own father, as you've said it, you have to be willing to accept it could be your own brother, your own anyone in the family.
And I mean, we tell kids, go to, tell an adult, go to a police station, tell a teacher. Opening that case after doing this work for so long, on that very day, a colonel calls and says, oh, because you're famous, now we must run around opening a case for you and you don't even remember the dates. So that kind of secondary victimization, and in my ear and in my heart, I could tell that's a perpetrator who's afraid that here's a case that's 20 years old and it's now coming back. If she does it, then many other women are going to do it. And I want to say to South Africans and to little girls out there, there's a lot of us out here who've been through this and we know and we are with you. So take courage and whatever it is, whether it's writing it so that you cope with what's happened and as your evidence so that the day that you gather the strength to go and say something to someone, you've written it down, you've said something. Because one of the things the law said to me was, because the first person I told was my grandmother and she's passed on, that casts doubt on whether this happened or not. So also we've got fantastic laws, but the will for me is the thing. And I also would like to hear the president say something about this, because this is a crisis. It's a national crisis. Every day a woman, a child, even a man is raped, abused, kidnapped, sold off, slavery, rituals, whatever. It's business unusual.
Miranda?
Yeah. I think really what we just want to say is, unlike the Me Too movement, we can't expect children, and we don't want children to own up, but we want to start that courageous conversation with them, and we want to tell them how are we going to listen to you, and that we understand where you're coming from. So it's about facilitating courageous conversations. This is a movement. It's not owned by Women and Men Against Child Abuse or Andile. We are saying, please join us in this movement, because if we can start something going in this country, and we are looking at 24,000 children as our reach for the end of the year.
Then you've at least done something.
Absolutely. And people have bought into it. Families need to start having these discussions. As Andile said, they have to say, what will we do when we find out that my brother has done this to my child? That we know this will probably destroy families, break up families. We know that children accept sometimes their abuse because they know that there will not be bread on the table the following evening for their family. And how do we have that courageous conversation? How do we say to that child, speak up now, knowing the huge consequences? But if we don't start talking about that in this kind of language, then we are really just going to be dealing with the symptoms and putting children through clinics and giving them therapy, but not really getting to the core of this courageous, brave, and difficult conversation.
So you mentioned something that I think is terrifying for parents, that for years the message has been say no. Go out there, if anyone touches you, you know, say no. Does that resonate with you, that actually doesn't work? But then what do parents do to protect their children?
Well, I remember being told when I went to Bonato Park High, Mrs. McCreese used to tell us, the principal, this is, put your hand out there, and this between that and your arm here is and your shoulder is your personal space. Don't allow anyone into this personal space. So when this happened to me, and it's being done by someone that I've looked up to, and because I didn't grow up with my father, that I wanted to know, who's a famous musician, I wanted to be a musician, then that falls, it falls out the window, because there you are being pinned down with this big person, and you did say no, and you're hitting and you're screaming, and it doesn't do anything. So what Miranda's saying, in fact, what is the price of our sanity and our healing in South Africa? So if stuff must break, let it break, because there's lots of people who are broken out there.
We're running out of time, so very quickly, #MiniMeToo. How do people get involved?
Okay, so they can tweet, they can Instagram, they can get in touch with us at Women and Men Against Child Abuse, and we are going to facilitate and roll out this campaign, which we hope to become a movement. So please we are sort of well in all sorts of kind of dictionaries or wherever they have to find us, and get hold of us. Yeah.
All right. Thank you
very much.
Thank you so much for being with us. Television personality Andile Galeswe. I think we've Galeswe. It's because we spelled it wrong. And Miranda Jordan, thank you for being with us from Women and Men Against Child Abuse. So we take a short break.
Thank you.